She restored an orphanage no one wanted anymore. The basement wall kept cracking open every night. Inside, she found a billionaire's will, waiting silently. He left everything to the stranger who stayed. If someone saw your potential before you did, how did it change you? The trowel scrapes against brick in the basement of Ashford House, and Maren Holt feels the sound in her teeth. She's been kneeling here for 2 hours, patching a crack that runs from floor to ceiling like a scar. The mortar is cold under her fingertips, gritty and unforgiving. Her knees ache against the concrete. The light bulb overhead flickers every few seconds, casting her shadow long and broken across the wall. But she doesn't mind the ache. She's gotten good at not minding things. Above her, she hears laughter, Lena's voice, high and bright, echoing down through the old floorboards. The sound makes her pause, trowel suspended in midair. 6 children live upstairs in the only wing of the house she's managed to make habitable. 6 lives depending on walls she's holding together with borrowed money and something close to faith. 8 months ago, she bought this place with a small inheritance from her mother and a construction loan she's still not sure she can repay. The building had been abandoned for 12 years before she found it. Windows shattered, roof sagging, basement flooded with rainwater and rot. The realtor called it a teardown. Maren called it hers. She didn't tell anyone she had no training for this. No degree in architecture or social work. No plan beyond the certainty that this place needed someone. And she needed to be needed. The basement smells like damp stone and old wood. The kind of smell that clings to your clothes and follows you into sleep. She's gotten used to that too. The hum of the pipes overhead is constant, a low vibration that feels like the house breathing. Sometimes she wonders if it's alive in the way broken things can be. Still standing, still fighting. Her hands are rough now, fingernails cracked and lined with dirt she can never quite wash out. There's cold sweat on the back of her neck despite the chill in the air. She wipes her forehead with the back of her wrist and stares at the wall in front of her. It's just brick. Just structure. Just something that needs fixing. But lately, she's been spending more time down here than she should. More time pressing her palms against the rough texture of the mortar, listening to the silence between the children's footsteps above. She tells herself it's because the foundation is the most important part. If the foundation fails, everything else falls. She doesn't let herself think about what happens if she's the thing that fails. The crack she's working on is wider than it should be, older than the others. She's patched it twice already, but it keeps reopening, like the house is refusing to heal in that one spot. She runs her thumb along the seam and feels the cold seep through. Lena's laughter rings out again, louder this time, followed by the thud of small feet racing across the floor. Maren smiles without meaning to. Lena is 7 years old and draws pictures of houses with hearts on the doors. She tapes them to the peeling walls upstairs, little bursts of color against the cracked plaster. Maren has kept every single one. She picks up the trowel again, scoops more mortar from the bucket beside her, and presses it into the crack with careful, deliberate pressure. The work is meditative, repetitive. It keeps her hands busy and her mind quiet. But tonight, the quiet feels different. She finishes the patch and sits back on her heels, studying her work. The wall looks solid now, stable, but there's a hollow feeling in her chest that won't settle. She presses her palm flat against the cold brick, fingers spread wide, as if she could feel the house's heartbeat beneath the surface. For a moment, she closes her eyes and just listens. The hum of the pipes, the creak of the floorboards, the faint echo of a child's voice calling someone's name. She doesn't know why this place matters so much to her. She only knows that it does, that she would rather break herself fixing it than walk away and let it crumble. Her hand stays pressed against the wall, and she feels something she can't name. A pull, a weight, a a question the house is asking that she doesn't have the answer to yet. She pulls her hand back slowly, studying the mortar drying in the seams. She didn't know yet that some walls don't just hold up buildings, they hold up lies. Morning light filters through the broken windows of Ashford House, pale and thin, cutting stripes across the kitchen floor. Maren stands at the stove, stirring oatmeal in a dented pot, while the kettle whistles behind her. The kitchen is barely functional. One working burner, a fridge that hums too loud, cabinets with doors that hang crooked on their hinges. But it's warm, and it smells like burnt toast and fresh paint from the hallway she finished yesterday. The children shuffle in, one by one, hair messy from sleep, eyes still soft with dreams. Lena is last, carrying a folded piece of paper in her hand. She slides into the chair closest to Maren and smooths the papers flat on the table. "I made this for you," she says. Maren glances over and sees it. A house drawn in crayon, bright red with a yellow door and a heart in the center. The lines are wobbly but deliberate. Lena has written "home" across the top in uneven letters. Maren's chest tightens in a way she doesn't expect. She wipes her hands on her jeans and kneels beside the chair, studying the drawing like it's something sacred. "It's perfect," she says quietly. Lena beams. "Can we put it on the fridge?" "Absolutely." Maren tapes it beside two others. A sun, a cat, a tree with too many branches. The fridge is covered in drawings now, little bursts of color against the chipped white surface. She steps back and looks at them, and for a moment, the weight in her chest feels lighter. One of the older boys asks if there's juice. Another wants to know if they can play outside after breakfast. Maren answers each question with the kind of patience she didn't know she had 8 months ago. She pours oatmeal into mismatched bowls and sets them on the table, watching as the children eat and talk over each other, their voices filling the room with a noise that feels like life. Lena tugs on her sleeve. "Why did you pick this house?" Maren pauses, spoon halfway to her mouth. She sets it down and meets Lena's eyes. Wide, curious, waiting. "It needed someone," she says simply. Lena tilts her head. "But why you?" Maren doesn't have an answer for that. Not one that makes sense. So she smiles and brushes a strand of hair from Lena's face. "Maybe because I needed it too." Lena seems satisfied with that. She goes back to her oatmeal, humming something tuneless and sweet. The children don't know that Maren has no formal training, no degree in social work or child care, no staff to help her, no safety net if this all falls apart. They don't know she lies awake some nights, calculating how many months she has before the loan payments crush her. They just know she's here, and for now that's enough. After breakfast, she clears the bowls and wipes down the table. The children scatter, some to the makeshift playroom, others outside to the patch of yard she's cleared of debris. The house settles into its daytime rhythm. Footsteps overhead, doors opening and closing, the creak of old wood, adjusting to weight. Maren heads down to the basement. The air's cooler here, heavy with the smell of mildew and damp stone. She flips the light switch, and the bulb flickers once before holding steady. She walks to the wall she patched last night, already knowing what she's going to find. The crack has widened. It's not just a hairline anymore. It's a gap. The size of her fist, maybe larger, running vertically through the mortar she applied just hours ago. She kneels in front of it, heart beating a little faster than it should. She touches the edge of the gap, and pieces of dried mortar crumble under her fingers. The wall isn't just cracking, it's opening. She pulls her phone from her pocket and turns on the flashlight, angling it into the darkness behind the brick. The beam cuts through shadow, revealing nothing at first. Just emptiness, the hollow space between the inner and outer walls. Then she sees it. a glint of metal, small, dull, half buried in dust. Her breath catches. She leans closer, trying to make sense of the shape. It's not a pipe, not rebar. It's something deliberate, something placed there. Her hand hovers near the gap, fingers trembling slightly. She could reach in, pull whatever it is free. But something stops her, a hesitation she doesn't understand, a voice in her head whispering that once she pulls it out, she can't put it back. The house creaks above her, a faint sound like footsteps moving across the floor. "Marin!" Lena's voice, bright and urgent, echoing down the stairs. Marin pulls her hand back and stands, brushing dust from her knees. She glances at the wall, one last time, at the gap and the glint of metal, waiting in the dark. "Coming!" she calls. She turns and climbs the stairs, leaving the basement behind. But the image stays with her, burned into her mind like something she's been looking for without knowing it. Something hidden. Something waiting. She told herself it was nothing, but some secrets grow louder the longer you ignore them. The house is quiet by 10 o'clock. The children are asleep upstairs, their breathing soft and even through the thin walls. Martin stands in the kitchen, staring at the fridge covered in crayon drawings. Lena's house with the heart on the door is front and center, the colors bright against the white surface. She traces the edge of the paper with her fingertip. This is why she's here. This is what matters. But the glint of metal in the basement wall has been burning in her mind all day, refusing to fade. She's tried to ignore it. Made dinner, helped with homework, read a story before bed. But now in the silence, there's nothing left to distract her. She grabs a flashlight from the drawer and heads downstairs. The basement is colder at night, the air heavy and still. She flips the light switch, and the bulb flickers twice before settling into a dim glow. She crosses to the wall and kneels in front of the gap, shining the flashlight inside. The metal is still there, waiting. She goes back upstairs and returns with a crowbar from the toolbox in the hall closet. She's not sure when she made the decision to open the wall, only that it feels inevitable now, like something she was always going to do. She wedges the crowbar into the gap and pries gently at first, testing the resistance. The brick shifts easier than she expects, mortar crumbling away in chunks. She works carefully, deliberately, pulling one brick free and then another. The wall opens like a mouth, revealing the hollow space behind it. Dust clouds the air, and she coughs, waving it away with her hand. The bricks scrape against each other as she stacks them on the floor beside her. Her breath quickens, not from exertion, but from something closer to fear or anticipation. The gap widens until it's large enough for her to reach inside. She shines the flashlight into the hollow and sees it clearly now. A steel box, no bigger than a shoebox, sitting on a wooden ledge built into the wall. It's covered in a thick layer of dust, undisturbed for years, maybe decades. Her hands tremble as she reaches in and lifts it free. It's heavier than it looks, solid and cold against her palms. She sets it on the floor in front of her and stares at it, heart pounding in her chest. There's no lock, just a simple latch, tarnished with age. She wipes her hands on her jeans and flips the latch open. The lid lifts with a faint creak, and inside, resting on a bed of faded fabric, is a single envelope. The paper is thick, yellowed at the edges, sealed with red wax that's cracked but still intact. The front is addressed in careful, handwritten script. To the keeper of Ashford House. Marin's chest tightens. She doesn't remember being called a keeper. She's just someone who bought a broken building and tried to fix it. Just someone who didn't know where else to go. But the words stare back at her, deliberate and certain, as if they've been waiting for her all along. She picks up the envelope with both hands, feeling the weight of it. The wax seal is embossed with a simple design. 2 interlocking circles, worn smooth by time. She runs her thumb over it, hesitating. Once she breaks it, there's no going back. She takes a breath and cracks the seal. The wax crumbles between her fingers, falling onto her lap in small red fragments. She pulls the letter free. Several pages, folded carefully, the paper slick and cool to the touch. Her hands shake as she unfolds it. The handwriting is elegant, precise, written in black ink that's faded but still legible. She angles the flashlight and reads the first line. "If you're reading this, you've already done what I could not." She stops, reads it again. "If you're reading this, you've already done what I could not." Her breath catches. She doesn't understand yet, but something in the words feels too specific, too personal. This wasn't written for just anyone. It was written for someone who would come here, someone who would stay, someone like her. She lowers the letter to her lap and stares at the wall, at the hollow space she's just opened, at the bricks scattered around her feet. The house creaks above her, a soft sound like something settling, and for a moment, she feels like she's not alone. Like whoever wrote this letter is standing in the room with her, watching, waiting to see what she'll do next. She picks up the letter again, her hand steadier now, and keeps reading. She read the first line 3 times before she understood. This wasn't meant for a stranger. It was meant for her. The letter is 7 pages long, written in careful, elegant cursive that flows across the paper like something from another era. Maren sits cross-legged on the basement floor, the flashlight propped against a brick beside her, and reads, "If you're reading this, you've already done what I could not. My name is Callum Vera. You don't know me, and I will never know you, but I believe we understand each other in the way that matters most. We both know what it means to try to save something broken." She reads the name twice, trying to place it. Callum Vera. It sounds vaguely familiar. The kind of name you hear in passing and forget. She keeps reading. "I built an empire. Steel, shipping, real estate. Things that made me wealthy beyond measure. But wealth doesn't fill the rooms where your family used to be. It doesn't bring back the people you lose. Too young." There's a coffee stain on the corner of the page, faded brown and years old. She touches it lightly, as if she could feel the moment it was made. A man sitting at a desk, writing this letter, with a cup growing cold beside him. "I lost my wife and daughter in a car accident 35 years ago. After that, I had money and time and no idea what to do with either. So I bought this house, Ashford House, with one purpose: to turn it into a place where children who had lost everything could find a home." Maren's breath catches. She glances around the basement, at the exposed brick and crumbling mortar, at the house that's been falling apart for as long as she's known it. This place was supposed to be an orphanage. She looks back at the letter. "I hired architects, contractors. I had plans drawn up for 20 bedrooms, a library, a garden. I wanted it to be beautiful. I wanted it to be the kind of place where broken things could grow again. But I died 3 weeks before construction began." The words hit her like a physical thing, cold and final. She imagines him. This man, Callum Vera, planning every detail, dreaming of children's laughter filling the rooms, never getting to see it happen. My executors didn't understand. They saw a half-finished project and an opportunity to liquidate. They sold Ashford House to a developer who let it sit empty for years. They followed my official will to the letter, distributing my estate to charities and distant relatives who didn't need it. But they didn't know about this letter, or the will hidden with it. Marin's hands tremble. She turns the page. I hit a second will inside the basement wall. Legal. Binding, witnessed by my lawyer and sealed with my family crest. The two interlocking circles you saw in the envelope represent the bond between loss and hope. They were my grandfather's design, and now they're yours. She thinks of the red wax, the simple emblem pressed into it. A family crest, a legacy. The will is simple. Whoever restores Ashford House to its intended purpose, as a home for children who need one, inherits my estate. Not as wealth, but as responsibility. Her heartbeat pounds in her ears. She reads the next line 3 times before it makes sense. The estate is currently valued at $173 million. She stops breathing. $173 million. The number doesn't feel real. It's too large, too impossible. She stares at the words, waiting for them to rearrange themselves into something that makes sense. But they don't. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're young or old, rich or poor, certain or afraid. But I know you came here when no one else would. I know you stayed when it would have been easier to leave. And I know you're doing the work I couldn't finish. Her eyes blur. She wipes them quickly, smearing dust across her cheek. This isn't a gift. It's a trust. Use it to keep the house alive, to keep the children safe, to build the place I dreamed of and never got to see. When you're ready, call my lawyer. His name is Silas Drum. He's been waiting a long time. At the bottom of the page, written in the same careful script, is a phone number. Marin lowers the letter to her lap and stares at the wall in front of her. The hollow space where the box was hidden, the bricks scattered on the floor, the house settling around her with soft creaks and groans. She doesn't know if this is real. It could be a prank, some cruel joke left by a stranger. But something in the handwriting feels true, something in the weight of the paper, the faded ink, the way the words seem to speak directly to her. She looks at her reflection in the small basement window. Pale, stunned, covered in dust. She doesn't look like someone who inherits $173 million. She looks like someone who's been scraping by for 8 months on borrowed money and hope. But the letter doesn't care what she looks like. It only cares what she's done. The house creaks above her, a long, slow sound, like something exhaling. The silence after is so thick it hums, pressing against her ears. She folds the letter carefully and sets it on the floor beside her. Then she sits down fully, legs stretched out in front of her, back against the cold brick wall. She's not kneeling anymore, not working, not fixing. She's just sitting, stunned, trying to understand. She wasn't holding a letter anymore. She was holding a life she hadn't chosen, and a question she couldn't escape. Why her? Marin doesn't call the number for 3 days. She carries the letter with her everywhere, folded carefully in her jacket pocket, the paper soft from being touched too many times. She goes through the motions. Breakfast with the children, patching the leaking pipe in the upstairs bathroom, reading bedtime stories with a voice that sounds steadier than she feels. But at night, alone in her room, she pulls out the letter and reads it again. The words never change, but her understanding of them does. When you're ready, call Silas Drum. She doesn't feel ready. She doesn't know if she ever will. On the 3rd morning, Lena hands her another drawing at breakfast. The same house, the same heart on the door, but this time there's a woman standing in front of it. Stick arms, smile like a crescent moon. That's you, Lena says, pointing. Marin stares at the drawing, throat tight. She folds it carefully and slips it into her pocket beside the letter. That afternoon, she locks herself in the basement and dials the number. It rings once, twice. A man answers on the third ring, his voice warm and measured. Silas Drum. Her hands shake. My name is Maren Holt. I found a letter. In a wall. At Ashford House. There's a pause and then a long, slow exhale. I've been waiting a very long time for this call. 2 days later, she sits in his office downtown. The room is wood-paneled and formal, lined with framed diplomas and leather-bound books. The chairs are deep and comfortable, the kind that smell faintly of old cologne and expensive coffee. Traffic hums outside the tall windows, muffled and distant. Silas Drum is 71 years old, silver-haired and careful in his movements. He sits across from her with the kind of patience that comes from spending decades waiting for something to happen. He pulls a folder from his desk drawer and sets it between them. This is the original will, notarized, sealed, witnessed by 2 colleagues who have since passed. Maren stares at the folder. She doesn't open it. It's legitimate, Silas says gently. Binding, legal in every way that matters. Her breath is shallow, uneven. She reaches into her pocket and touches Lena's drawing, the paper smooth and familiar, under her fingertips. There's a condition, Silas continues. You must continue operating Ashford House as an orphanage for at least 10 years. After that, the estate becomes yours outright, to use, donate, or dissolve as you see fit. 10 years. She's barely survived 8 months. What if I can't? Her voice cracks. What if I'm not good enough? Silas leans forward, hands folded on the desk. Callum knew what he was doing. He didn't want someone perfect. He wanted someone who would stay. But why didn't he tell anyone? The question burst out of her, raw and desperate. Why hide it in a wall for 30 years? Silas smiles, sad and knowing. He wanted someone who would do it without the money. Someone who already loved the place. The words land like a physical blow. She thinks about the 8 months she spent there. The mornings making breakfast in a broken kitchen. The nights patching walls with borrowed tools. The children's laughter echoing through rooms she's held together with duct tape and hope. She didn't do it for money. She did it because she didn't know where else to go. And somehow, that was exactly what Callum Vera was looking for. Her eyes blur. She blinks hard, but the tears come anyway, hot and unstoppable. She covers her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. Silas doesn't say anything. He just slides a box of tissues across the desk and waits. She's not crying from joy. She's crying because, for the first time in her life, someone sees her. Not what she's failed at, not what she's lost, but what she's managed to build in the wreckage. Maybe inheritance isn't about deserving it. Maybe it's about becoming the person who can carry it. If you've ever been chosen for something you didn't think you earned, let me know. Subscribe. Wait, because some stories are about learning you were enough all along. She wipes her eyes and takes a shaky breath. What do I do now? Silas hands her the folder. You sign the paperwork. I transfer the first installment to cover immediate repairs and operating costs. And then you keep doing what you've already been doing. She opens the folder with trembling hands. Inside are pages of legal documents, dense, with language she doesn't fully understand. But at the top of the first page, in clear, simple text, it says, Estate of Callum Vera. Total valuation, $173 million. She reads it 3 times. The number still doesn't feel real. He really believed someone would come, she whispers. He did, Silas says, and he was right. She signs her name at the bottom of each page, her handwriting shaky but deliberate. When she's finished, Silas countersigns as executor and slides the documents into a leather portfolio. You'll receive the full estate details within the week, he says, but for now, this should cover what you need. He writes a number on a slip of paper and hands it to her. She stares at it. $50,000. Enough to fix the roof. Hire help. Buy real beds for the children. Enough to stop holding her breath every time she opens a bill. Thank you, she says, but the words feel too small. Silas stands and extends his hand. She shakes it, his grip firm and warm. Callum would have liked you, he says softly. She doesn't know how to respond to that, so she just nods. She leaves the office with the folder tucked under her arm, stepping out into the late afternoon sunlight. The city moves around her. Cars, voices, the distant wail of a siren. But she feels separate from it, like she's moving through water. In her pocket, Lena's drawing is folded next to the letter. She has everything she needs now. Money. Legitimacy. A future that extends beyond the next loan payment. But all she can think about is the man who wrote the letter. The man who died before he could see his dream come true. She left the office with a folder full of papers and a heart full of questions. The biggest one, what if she failed him? Maren drives back to Ashford House with the folder on the passenger seat and Lena's drawing still folded in her pocket. The sun is setting by the time she pulls into the gravel driveway, casting long shadows across the yard. Inside, the house is warm and alive with noise. The children are finishing dinner, voices overlapping in the kitchen. One of the older boys is arguing about whose turn it is to wash dishes. Lena is humming something tuneless while coloring at the table. Maren stands in the doorway, watching them. They don't know yet. They don't know that everything has changed, that the roof will be fixed, that there will be heat all winter, that she won't have to choose between groceries and electricity anymore. But they also don't know that she's terrified. Lena looks up and smiles. You're home. Maren forces a smile back. I'm home. She helps clean up after dinner, moving through the motions with a mind that's somewhere else. The children scatter to their rooms, and the house settles into its nighttime rhythm. Creaking floors, distant giggles, the hum of the old furnace struggling to keep up. She stands in the kitchen, staring at Lena's drawing on the fridge. The house with the heart, the stick figure woman standing in front of it. That's you. Her chest tightens. She pulls the drawing down carefully and folds it into her pocket. Then she goes down to the basement. The wall is still open, bricks scattered on the floor where she left them days ago. The hollow space is empty now, just darkness, and exposed brick. The light bulb overhead flickers once, then holds steady. Maren kneels in front of the wall and presses her hands against the cold brick, fingers spread wide. She doesn't know why she's here, only that this is where it started, and this is where she needs to say what's been building in her chest since she left the lawyer's office. I don't know if you can hear me, she says quietly. Her voice sounds too loud in the empty basement, echoing off the concrete floor. I don't even know if I believe you can. But I need to say this anyway. She takes a breath. I didn't come here to be noble. I didn't come here because I had some grand vision or calling. I came because I was broke and heartbroken and didn't know where else to go. The words spill out, raw and unfiltered. I thought if I could fix this place, maybe I could fix myself. Like if I worked hard enough, if I patched enough walls and painted enough rooms, I'd stop feeling like I was falling apart. Her voice cracks. She presses her forehead against the brick, eyes closed. But you knew that, didn't you? You knew someone like me would come. Someone who was running from something. Someone who had nothing left to lose. She thinks about the letter, the careful handwriting, the words that felt like they were written specifically for her. He wanted someone who would do it without the money. Someone who already loved the place. You didn't need someone perfect, she whispers. You needed someone who would stay. And suddenly she understands. Callum didn't hide the will in the wall because he wanted to test people. He hid it because he knew that the kind of person who would restore Ashford House, truly restore it, with love and desperation, and nothing to prove, wouldn't be looking for a reward. They'd already be there, already working, already too invested to walk away. He was waiting for someone who had no choice but to stay, and then he gave them every reason to keep staying. Marin's breath shudders. Tears slide down her cheeks, and she doesn't bother wiping them away. "I'm scared," she admits to the empty basement, to the ghost of a man she'll never meet. "I'm scared I'll fail you. I'm scared I'll mess this up. I'm scared the money will run out, or I'll make the wrong decision, or the kids will grow up and realize I had no idea what I was doing." She opens her eyes and stares at the hollow space in the wall, the place where the letter waited for 34 years. But I'm more scared of leaving. The realization settles over her like something physical, heavy and certain. She's not staying because she has to anymore. She's staying because this is where she belongs. Because these children need her, and she needs them. Because Callum believed someone would come, and she was the one who did. She pulls Lena's drawing from her pocket and smooths it flat against her knee. The house with the heart. The woman standing in front of it. She stands and pins the drawing to the exposed brick where the steel box used to sit. The paper flutters slightly in the cool air, but it holds. "I'll do it," she says aloud, her voice steadier now. "I'll keep them safe. I'll keep this place alive. I'll build what you couldn't finish." She presses her palm flat against the wall, one last time, as if sealing a promise. "Not because I'm perfect, not because I have all the answers, but because I'm here and I'm not leaving." The house creaks above her, a soft sound, like something exhaling. She stands in the quiet for a long moment, feeling the weight of the promise settle into her bones. It doesn't feel light. It doesn't feel easy, but it feels right. She turns and climbs the stairs, leaving the basement behind. The hollow space in the wall is empty now, no longer hiding anything. Just brick and shadow, and a child's drawing pinned where a secret used to be. The wall was gone. The secret was out. And all that was left was the quiet work of becoming someone worth remembering. 6 weeks passed like water finding its level. Slow, inevitable, reshaping everything it touches. The legal documents arrive in thick manila envelopes, certified and official. Marin spreads them across the kitchen table one morning while the children eat breakfast, her pen scratching signatures on page after page. The sound is rhythmic, almost meditative. Lena watches her from across the table, quiet and curious. "What's all that?" she asks. Marin looks up, pen paused mid-signature. "Paperwork. Boring, grown-up stuff." "Does it mean you're staying?" The question lands softly, but Marin feels the weight of it. She sets the pen down and meets Lena's eyes. "Yes," she says simply. "I'm staying." Lena smiles, bright and certain, and goes back to her cereal. Marin signs the last document and slides the stack into the return envelope. Her hands are steady now. No trembling, no doubt. Just the quiet certainty of someone who's made a choice and decided to live inside it. By late autumn, Ashford House is breathing differently. The roof is repaired. New shingles, solid flashing. No more buckets in the hallway when it rains. The heating system is replaced entirely, and for the first time in years, the house is warm all the way through. The children walk around in socks instead of layers, and the windows fog with condensation from breath and life. Marin hires 2 staff members with the first transfer of funds. A woman named Claire, who cooks meals that don't come from a box, and a man named Joel, who handles repairs and keeps the grounds clear. They're kind and competent, and they don't ask too many questions about where the money came from. Marin doesn't tell them about Callum. Not yet. She's still figuring out how to hold that story herself. The children have real beds now. frames and mattresses that don't sag in the middle. There are bookshelves in the common room, filled with donated books from the library downtown. The kitchen sink doesn't leak anymore, and the fridge hums steadily without threatening to die. But Maren moves carefully through it all, slowly, quietly. She doesn't want to lose the heart of the place in the wealth. She doesn't want the children to feel like charity cases, or the house to feel like an institution. So she keeps the crayon drawings on the walls. She keeps the mismatched furniture. She keeps the rhythm they built together over 8 months of barely surviving. Because surviving together matters more than any renovation. One afternoon, she goes down to the basement to retrieve some stored supplies. The hollow in the wall is still there. Bricks neatly restacked, but the gap visible. Lena's drawing is pinned where the steel box used to sit. The paper slightly faded now, but still holding. Maren stops in front of it, staring at the house with the heart. The stick figure woman standing in front. That's you. She reaches out and touches the edge of the paper, careful not to tear it. This is what Callum left her. Not just money, not just a house, but the space to become someone who could love something fragile and stay. She doesn't cry this time. She just stands there, breathing in the cool basement air, feeling the weight of the promise she made settling deeper into her bones. Some days, she still wakes up afraid she'll make a mistake, afraid the money will run out, afraid she'll fail the man who believed someone like her would come. But then Lena calls her name from upstairs, or one of the younger children asks for help with homework, or the house creaks in that familiar way, and she remembers she's not doing this alone. She's doing it with them, for them, and that's enough. On a cold morning in early December, Lena finds her in the entryway, hanging a small frame photograph on the wall. It's an old picture Silas gave her. Callum Vera standing in front of Ashford House 34 years ago, back when the paint was fresh and the garden was just dirt. He's smiling in the photo, hands in his pockets, looking at the building like it's the most important thing in the world. Beneath the frame, Maren has added a small brass plaque, in memory of Callum Vera, who dreamed of a home for the lost and left a map for the ones who would find it. Lena reads it aloud slowly, sounding out the bigger words. Who's Callum? Maren kneels beside her, adjusting the frame so it hangs straight. Someone who loved this place before we did. Someone who wanted kids like you to have somewhere safe. Lena tilts her head, studying the photograph. Did you know him? No, Maren says softly, but I think he knew me. Lena doesn't ask what that means. She just reaches out and takes Maren's hand, small fingers wrapping around hers. Are you staying forever? She asks again. Maren looks at her. This child who drew a house with a heart, who believed in her before she believed in herself. And smiles without hesitation. Yes, she says. Forever. Lena hugs her then, small arms fierce and trusting, and Maren holds her close, breathing in the smell of soap and fresh bread from breakfast. This is what Callum wanted. Not a monument, not a plaque or a legacy carved in marble. Just this. A child feeling safe enough to ask if someone will stay, and someone staying. That evening, after the children are asleep, Maren walks through the house slowly, touching the walls like they're alive. The kitchen where Claire is cleaning up from dinner. The common room with its mismatched furniture and shelves full of books. The staircase with its newly repaired banister. The bedrooms upstairs, each one warm and quiet. She ends in the entryway, standing in front of Callum's photograph. I'll make sure they know your name, she whispers. The house creaks softly, settling into the cold night. It sounds almost like an answer. She thinks about the man in the photograph. The one who built an empire and lost everything that mattered. Who bought a house and hid a will in its walls. Who believed someone broken would come and choose to stay. He never got to see this, never got to hear the laughter echoing through the rooms or watch children grow up safe and loved. But he made it possible. And that, Marin realizes, is its own kind of forever. She turns off the lights and climbs the stairs to her room, leaving Callum's photograph watching over the quiet house. Some legacies aren't carved in stone. They're written in the laughter of children who will never know the man who saved them. 1 year after finding the will, Ashford House stands solid against the autumn sky, its roof intact, its windows clear, its walls no longer held together by hope and duct tape. 23 children live here now, their voices filling the rooms with a kind of noise that sounds like belonging. 6 staff members move through the daily rhythms: breakfast, homework, bedtime stories, with the ease of people who've found their place. Marin has turned down 3 interview requests from local news stations. She's declined invitations to speak at fundraisers and galas. The story of Callum Vera and the hidden will has stayed quiet, known only to her, Silas, and the people who help keep this place running. But today, she's unveiling something small and permanent. The children gather in the entryway, curious and restless. Claire stands in the doorway to the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Joel leans against the wall, arms crossed, smiling. Marin stands beside the front door, her hands steady as she removes the cloth covering a bronze plaque mounted on the wall. The metal gleams in the afternoon light, the engraving simple and clear. Ashford House, founded by Callum Vera, restored by love, sustained by those who stay. Nina steps forward and reads it aloud, her voice careful and proud. The other children lean in, fingers tracing the letters. "Who's Callum?" one of the younger boys asks. Marin kneels beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder. Someone who believed in second chances, just like us. "Did he live here?" Lena asks. "No," Marin says softly, "but he dreamed it. And sometimes dreams live longer than the people who have them." The children don't fully understand yet, but they will. Someday when they're older, they'll walk past this plaque and remember that someone they never met loved them enough to build them a home. The group disperses slowly, back to games, back to homework, back to the routines that make this place feel like theirs. Marin stays in the entryway, staring at the plaque, her fingertips brushing the cool metal. Behind her, laughter echoes down the hallway. Someone drops a book upstairs. The house creaks, settling into the weight of all these lives. She thinks about the letter, the one she still keeps in her desk drawer, the line that changed everything. "If you're reading this, you've already done what I could not." She closes her eyes and whispers, so quietly no one else can hear. "No, we did it together." That night, after the children are asleep and the staff have gone home, Marin sits on the front steps of Ashford House. The air is cool and still, the kind of autumn night that smells like wood smoke and turning leaves. The porch light casts a soft glow across the yard, illuminating the garden that's finally starting to take shape. There are still weeds. The paint is chipping in places. The fence needs mending, but it's alive. And so is she. She pulls her jacket tighter and looks up at the house. At the lit windows, the solid roof, the door with its bronze plaque catching the light. It's not perfect. It never will be. But it's whole. A year ago she was kneeling in a basement, patching a crack in a wall, wondering why she couldn't walk away from a place that was falling apart. She thought she was broken. She thought fixing the house would fix her. She was wrong about that. The house didn't fix her. It gave her something to love when she'd forgotten how. It gave her children to care for when she'd stopped believing she had anything left to give. It gave her a reason to stay when leaving would have been easier. And staying, just staying, turned out to be the thing that mattered most. She thinks about Callum Vera, the man who built an empire and lost the only things that mattered. The man who bought this house and hid a will in its walls, betting everything on the belief that someone would come. Someone broken. Someone with nowhere else to go. Someone who would stay not because they had to, but because they couldn't imagine leaving. He never got to see this. Never got to hear the laughter or watch the children grow. Never got to know that his dream didn't die with him. But he made it possible, and that's its own kind of forever. Maren stands and walks to the doorway, resting her hand on the solid frame. She looks back at the house one more time, at the rooms glowing with warmth, at the plaque beside the door. She's not the same woman who bought this place with a small inheritance and a construction loan. She's not the same woman who spent 8 months holding her breath, terrified the whole thing would collapse. She's someone who learned that inheritance isn't about what you deserve. It's about what you're willing to carry. It's about showing up when no one's watching and staying when it gets hard and loving something broken until it remembers how to be whole. Callum didn't leave her money. He left her a choice. And every day, she chooses to stay. She steps inside and closes the door behind her, the sound soft and final. The house settles around her, warm and quiet, full of sleeping children and dreams that outlive the man who first dreamed them. Some inheritances aren't about what you're given, they're about what you give back.